I would do an hour of core work every single day before my lifting. Embarrassment is the cost of entry. You have to go through that if you want to become like a graceful master.
You've had, I feel like, an unconventional path of like getting to where you are.
Yeah, the Jillian Michaels videos, the P90X, you know, the Beachbody ones, we've all done those. Let me walk you through your squats.
In the early stages, like what did you find to be kind of like the most challenging pieces?
The darkest side that I see would be social media. Putting yourself out there is scary and people are cruel. As long as you make it about your clients and about them, you will be successful.
So when you started going to the gym and people were approaching you, were you recording yourself?
I'm a mom of 6 and this is what I did and you can do it too.
What do you see as kind of being the next big things?
Amy, thanks for coming.
Yes.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Again, yes. Man,
Episode 2.
I'm so glad you're back.
I know, right?
Okay, so you are a strength trainer. You're in the fitness world. You've done really well on Instagram. You're a mom of 6. You got a lot of stuff going on. Tell us how you got here.
Okay, so it's interesting. Like, what did
Having
I
to
say?
start
Yeah,
over
what did
again.
I just say? Yeah.
Okay, I'll just.
You
I'll
said
start
when I was 5, I started lifting
way
weights.
back.
Yes.
Yeah, when I was 5. No, I was given a pink dumbbell. No, okay.
Yeah.
So how this got started is as I've always been into fitness.
Yeah.
I ran track in high school. I did cheerleading in high school. I've enjoyed being active my whole life. And so anyway, having kids and, you know, getting married, having kids, I would still try to be active, but I would do things like the Jillian Michaels videos, the P90X, you know, the Beachbody ones. We've all done those, like running outside. I did biking outside, just anything that was available to, you know, that I could do
at home.
Do at home with my kids, you know, raising kids. So I didn't start actually weightlifting or getting into the gym until after I had my 6th kid. And so I reached out on my neighborhood Facebook page to a group, like, because I was terrified. I was terrified to go to the gym. I was so scared. It was very intimidating to me. I'd never had a gym pass before, but I knew I wanted to take that next step. So I reached out on my neighborhood Facebook page, and a group of 6 girls, 6 women, were like, okay, yeah, I'll do this with you. Like, let's go together. So we created this group and would go to the gym every morning, and things kind of took off from there. Like we had this little group chat, and I would send motivational quotes to them in the morning, and just kind of like, because I felt like I was kind of, you know, I started.
Were you
so
like the
I
leader?
gotta keep
The leader of the
kind
pack?
of. They joked around and called me coach, as like
Yeah, coach. Hey, coach.
Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of funny how that turned out. But anyway, so they would kind of tease me that, but I would kind of say, oh, we're doing this today. And I'd just pull from stuff that I knew, like the workout videos that I did and just what I knew. But I didn't know really what I was doing. Would stay in the cardio section in the safe zone, like maybe a little bit of dumbbells, but that was about it.
Right.
Like the scary part of the gym with all those big bodybuilders, I called it the lunk zone. And that was terrifying to me. So anyway, that's kind of how it got started. And then one day, going to the gym, I was going to a class with that group of friends.
Yeah.
And you had to walk through the whole gym. You had to go through the lunk zone. It was very intimidating.
Yeah, classes are in the back.
To get to the classroom.
It's like a gauntlet of people like looking at you. Like, what are you going to do here?
I know. Like, oh my gosh, these guys are so big and so scary and the weights are so loud. One day, going to the gym, I was heading to the class, and there was a squat rack right outside of the classroom. And there was these 4 girls on the squat rack, and I just had this moment of bravery where I asked them, hey, will you teach me how to use a barbell? And so I did, and they were so helpful.
Yeah,
cool. They were so helpful, and they're like, yeah, sure. So we put just some lighter weights on for me. They walked me through it. They told me all of these things that was like how to stand and how to breathe and how to brace myself, and it was so overwhelming. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing, but I did it, and they were so nice, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then my friend who was walking to the class, she came a little bit later. She saw me. And she snapped a picture of me, which I can send you.
Okay,
funny,
yeah,
I
sure.
can send you that picture. She snapped a picture of me the very first time I'd ever even touched a barbell. And then that was it. And so then the next day I was like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing. So I went back, and it was so scary. It was so scary. And I did it again. I tried the barbell thing again, and I made so many mistakes. There was a time where and this was in the very beginning, like I would say the first week or two after that, touching the barbell, I was like, okay, I think I can do this. I know this. So I loaded up some 25s, and I was like, I've lifted this before when they were helping me. And so I went to go lift it, and I could not lift it. And I was like, what's wrong? What's wrong?
No.
What did I do wrong?
Sure.
Oh, they were kilograms. It was kilograms. It
Oh,
was,
no.
So anyway, so I mean, that was just a perfect example of just one of the many mistakes I made along the way. There was a plethora of more of them, but anyway, so that's kind of how I got started into that. That was the very beginning, because up until that point, it had been just, pregnancy and getting in shape, and then, the roller coaster of starting over after every single baby, and it was hard. So then after my 6th, I was like, I'm doing this, and then here we are today.
Was there something that was, like, after your 6th kid, was there something that you thought, like, I want to, or I need to take care of my body? Not that you necessarily weren't before, but to the level that you are now. Like, was there like, you hear and see videos of people of, like, someone losing a ton of weight because their health is in jeopardy and they want to be alive for their kids, right? And just like kind of stuff like that. Was there anything in your mind or thought of, like, I'm just going to do this, and here's why?
Honestly, I had gotten in pretty good shape after my was it my fourth or fifth kid, and so I knew it felt good, and I knew I wanted that. And so after my 6th, that was pretty much the driving factor. Is I was like, I know I can get into good shape and actually keep it instead of having to start over, which is so daunting. And I really relate with women who experience that. You're like, they get to the point where like, why even try? You're just going to get pregnant again and start over. But so knowing that I was getting my body back for me, that was a pretty heavy driving factor for me.
I'm curious, do any of those friends that you initially went with, are they still gym goers, or do they go with you still or no? That's a weird question.
Or attend your classes?
You know what? They're such a great group of friends, and I love them, and I still talk to all of them, but our lives kind of took a different path.
Oh, sure.
Like, fitness kind of took over my life.
Sure.
And so they do still go to the gym, and I still see them at the gym, and they're still very consistent, but we're in very different places in life now, which is fine.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, so you go to the gym, you start getting really involved with it. You're getting to that next phase where you're saying, like, oh, hey, I actually like what I'm doing here. I liked that I was helping these friends of mine kind of like get into this activity and kind of do better at it. Your next phase of going from like here to like now helping other people, kind of help us understand a little more about like how that went for you.
I started going to the gym, and then I started making changes to my body. Like after it was about a year in, because it takes a while. This is not like a 3 month like transformation. So
as much as we'd like it to be,
right? Yeah. Patience is hard. So it was about a year in, and then I started to get people coming up to me at the gym asking me questions, and they were like, "Oh, what are you doing? Like, tell me what you're doing." And then I would also get asked a lot, do you have an Instagram page? Like, are you a fitness person? And that was so foreign to me. No way. I'm just a regular mom. I don't do any of that stuff. But it kind of got the wheels turning, because I was getting those questions so often that I thought, well, maybe I could create a place to help people and create a place to answer these questions and to say, hey, I'm a mom of 6 and this is what I did, and you can do it too. And so it was that point I kind of toyed with the idea. I'm like, well, maybe I should start an Instagram page. And that was so scary. Like, you have no idea how much I thought about that. And I was so scared. And I was like, I created it, but I also didn't want people to know about it at the same time. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so scary.
It's like they're asking you like, hey, can I have your Instagram? You're like, if you want to, I guess, but you don't have to look at it.
Don't judge me.
Maybe it's just my family and friends. It was so funny, because I really didn't want people to know about it, but I also did want people to help people. And so, anyway, I also have a little bit of background in like videoing, photography. I enjoy it. I wouldn't say I'm good at it, but I enjoy it. It's something like I was always making family videos and stuff like that. So with that being said, on my Instagram page, I started to like figure out how to do reels, because I didn't even have Instagram before I started I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know how a story was. I didn't know what a story was. I didn't know anything about it.
Sure.
You're like social media.
Now I know way too much.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I started to like figure out, you can do these fun little videos on Instagram, and they're funny, and I like funny stuff.
Yeah.
And so I created a couple of them, and then they went viral.
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
that like 1 million views, and I remember being like, oh my gosh, what is happening? But it grew my account, and then I went from like, a few hundred followers, under 1,000 followers, to like 7,000 followers when
Cool.
those reels went viral. And they were just silly, funny reels that I like. And so anyway, that was a weird experience, because then it brings in a whole new crew of people, and there's a lot of trolls out there. And so that was a learning curve. But that's kind of like it just, and then it just grew. I just kept on doing what I was doing, making funny videos that I thought were funny, that I enjoyed, trying to help people and give them tips and advice that I would have appreciated,
Sure.
At my beginning self. And then here we are today.
There's been a few videos watching you and your husband, Greg.
Yes.
Does he do fitness stuff with you too? Like,
Greg's jacked.
is he also a fitness guy?
Oh yeah. So he's got an amazing story too, because he made a full transformation just like I did. And he's a diabetic and has had cancer. So yeah,
crazy.
So we're
I didn't know about the cancer part.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we very much experienced life.
Yeah.
Like with the 6 kids and health and diabetes and all these things. So we can relate with a lot of people struggling with a lot of things.
That's really cool. That gives you a little bit more of a connection to your clients, right?
Yeah.
That you talk to.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So when you started going to the gym and people were approaching you saying like, hey, are you a fitness trainer? Are you an influencer? Were you recording yourself and like trying to keep your form and stuff? Or was it just like people would just watch and observe?
They would just watch and observe. Like I wasn't recording myself. In fact, I hated taking videos of myself. I still dislike it to this day, but it is kind of a necessary evil.
Yeah.
Of content creation. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, they were just asking. They clearly had seen my weight loss and then my transformation and watched what I was doing. And in fact, that's how I got my nickname Abs by Amy, is because I so a year in, I started getting these questions, like, what are you doing? And then not too long after that, I remember seeing a woman at the gym who had she had this rockin' 6-pack.
Yeah.
Right.
And I knew she had kids, and I thought, you know what? If she can do it, I'm going to try. I'm going to do it. If she can do it, I can do it. And so for the following year, and this is going to sound like kind of crazy, and maybe it was, I would do an hour of core work every single day before my lifting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I was so dedicated and disciplined. I would do so much core work. So minimum 30 minutes, usually about 45 minutes to an hour. And then I would go do my lifting and stuff like that. And a lot of the regular gym people kind of noticed that I was always doing core work and a lot of it. And so they'd call me oh, abs girl, or, and then and Abs by Amy. And then it just kind of stuck.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then now you have your business and everything.
Yeah.
I want to touch into a little bit, because you've had, I feel like, an unconventional path of getting to where you are, right? Do you know if there is certain certifications, or so if someone watching this is I want to be a personal trainer, I want to be a strength trainer or whatever, if there's a recommended path that maybe is a little bit more formal that you're aware of, or recommendations for someone to kind of get into this space?
So yes, my path and what got me here is very different and doesn't take the normal route, because to this day I am still not a certified personal trainer.
Oh, okay.
I never got that certification. How it started was, I said people were asking me questions. It went a step farther during COVID. One of the guys in my neighborhood owned a gym, and he was like, hey, will you come teach classes at my gym? Because everything was shut down then. And I thought, well, I'm not a trainer. I don't know what to do. And he's like, oh, it'll just be for the neighborhood. It's fine. And so I was like, okay, well, I know enough that I can tell. And I had helped my little group of 6 friends. And
Sure.
And so I was like, okay, so we just started with the neighborhood, and I started teaching classes at that gym. And from there it grew. And so that I've learned a lot in training other people. And so I'd say that it went backwards. I didn't get certified first and then trained other people. I trained people first. And that was probably the best hands-on educational learning experience, because I learned about different body mechanics. And there's lots of right ways to do things, and how to train and limitations of other people and then I went about it differently, and I learned a lot off of YouTube. If I didn't have a question, I would go YouTube it. I would try to just watch things on Instagram or other places to try to learn. And that's kind of how I went about it and did it. My driving factor was to help people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that if somebody wants to get certified as a trainer, that needs to be a driving factor for them, not for, I want to do this for me and show off what I can do. It's like, I genuinely want to help you and help other people.
Yeah.
And I think that your clients can sense that and they can tell. And so that will set you apart and make you a trainer that people are drawn to and want to come to because they know you care. And they know you want to help them.
It is cool to see some of your videos. You can tell, right? Some of your videos and your clips or Instagram, you're like, a lot of your customers are female, but like you're up there, you're pumping them up, you're amping them up, you're their cheerleader, right? And I think that in the little clips that I've seen, like that in itself shows that you like what you're doing.
Oh yeah,
you're passionate about it, thus your success.
I genuinely love it when I see, my clients, my girls, I call them my girls, do a lift and they're excited for themselves and they do something that they didn't think they could. Oh my gosh, that is the best feeling for me in the whole world. And I love it. And I kind of have no chill and I get so excited about it for them.
Yes.
I get excited for them and with them. So I love it.
If there's anything that you're not going to have chill for, I think like hyping up others is a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing to,
chill for.
100%.
Oh yeah,
No.
I love it.
So as you were growing in the early stages, like what did you find to be kind of like the most challenging pieces of like growing your business? Or even like, I think initially my guess would be that you didn't think it was necessarily a business initially, right?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I started all of this and then it grew and then it's like, oh crap, now I need to get an LLC. Now I need to.
Yeah.
So it's like, I went about it in a much different fashion, but the learning curve, like a lot of people will try to have stuff in order and like, I need to have this, and this in order before I start. And I just dove right in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm just going to learn along the way, which is how I learn best. And that's what I've done. Like with my Instagram page, I started an Instagram page. I didn't even know how to do Instagram.
Sure.
Same thing with everything else. It's a huge learning curve, but I think you need to be willing, just like with starting fitness, starting anything else, you need to be willing to be bad at something new. And I wasn't a great trainer at first. I didn't know all the technique tips and advice and cues to give people, but I learned real fast. And so I think the learning curve is really challenging, and also just being willing to accept that, you might not always be right and you're still learning. And putting yourself out there for criticism is huge.
Yeah.
Because that has been massive. Putting myself out there online is the criticism, and people are very cruel online.
Yeah.
They can be very nice, but also very cruel. And you just kind of have to accept that as a part of it.
It's interesting though, when hearing the things that you're talking about, like the parallels between like starting a business and the parallels between like improving your health and fitness, like
It's
a
the
lot of
same.
it is very much like the resiliency
And
right?
the consistency, because I had to be consistent with like learning, educating myself, had to be consistent with posting every single day if I wanted to like, keep up my Instagram page. And same thing with fitness. You have to just be consistent. You don't have to be perfect. I didn't have to have perfect posts. I didn't have to I just had to do it.
Yeah.
Be consistent.
Talk about like educating yourself. What's kind of like your go-to places for seeking the education to continue to understand exercises and body types and diet and nutrition and all this other stuff? Like where would you recommend someone's like, I want to get into this, I'm passionate about, I feel like I do an okay job, I want to learn more? Like what would kind of be your push?
That is a really good question, because there is so much fluff out there.
Yeah.
Especially especially on Instagram, anybody can go on Instagram with a microphone and just say, this is how it is, and say whatever they want. And generally, a lot of the times the most extreme claims and the most extreme things get the most views and the most followers and stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh. And so I think what you need to do is just be very cautious with your information, like go to reliable sources. And then also second, don't just take one piece of information as solid,
Right.
like always double check it. And so if I hear something online, like if somebody makes this claim, I think, okay, I'll go look it up and search it for myself. And so that's get like a second opinion, or educate yourself, like double check it. And so that's what I would recommend doing, because there's a lot of stuff out there that you really need to sift through. But it will always serve you well to educate yourself a little bit more and learn a little bit more on the topic, rather than just immediately believing the first thing that you hear. So with that being said, I have reliable sources on Instagram that I've learned to trust, and I believe a lot of things they say. I still always double check everything.
Sure.
If there's something I don't understand. And then YouTube's really great. Like I looked up a lot of things on YouTube of form of what moves were, and which I was doing that a lot.
Right.
In fact, I remember one day I was in bed. I think I was looking up like a lat pull down or something, because I didn't know what any of the exercises were.
Sure.
There was names for them, and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
And so I was looking it up on YouTube, and I remember my husband coming in and being like, is this going to be your life now?
Like, yes.
And so, in fact, I just rounded up to him the other day. I was like, hey, remember when you said that? This is our life now.
That's funny. No, I think it's interesting. And you mentioned that your husband also is into the fitness, and he also went through a body transformation.
Yes,
At what
did.
point did he kind of like jump on the bandwagon with you? I'm curious.
So speaking of that comment he made, he didn't start until about a year after my journey. So I had made a transformation in a year. And so he saw that, and he was honestly a little bit uncomfortable. And that's a thing with some couples, is like, if one person makes a fitness transformation,
sure.
it can be very exposing nerves and insecurities with the other person, who's maybe like, oh my gosh, you're growing and I'm not, or you're changing and I'm not. And it can be very hard. And we did go through that as a couple. And that's why he made that comment, is because I was making all of these changes to my lifestyle, to our lifestyle, because we used to go out to eat all the time. And then all of a sudden I was like, yeah, no, maybe we shouldn't, and so he kind of had a hard time with it. And that's when he made that comment, like, is this going to be your life now? And that was kind of a turning point, because he decided, you know what? I can either try to pull her down, or I can't, to make myself feel more comfortable and secure, or I can support her. And so he chose to support me and joined me. So it wasn't until, like I said, a year in. And so then after that, he got a gym pass. And then not too long after that, he decided he wanted to get a coach to learn. And then he made a massive transformation, being a type 1 diabetic, having gone through cancer, and he made a huge transformation too. And it's brought us closer together and really strengthened our marriage.
Yeah, I didn't know that about your husband with the cancer. I think I read somewhere or saw somewhere, maybe a post or something about him.
Yeah, I've put it on my page, but when he was going through it, I was really quiet about it.
Yeah,
I kind of keep
respect
personal,
it. Yeah,
personal life personal,
Yeah.
But I put it out there now to say, hey, look, we've been through stuff too.
Yeah.
We can relate with your hard things in your life. But while they might not be the same, everybody deals with challenges.
Yeah,
for sure.
Nobody's exempt.
Going back to a comment you said earlier of like being intimidated, like first going to the gym, like just walking through this, the lunk zone, right?
The lunk zone.
Any tips or recommendations for someone that kind of feels something very similar? Because I've talked to my wife, and like, I used to go to the gym a ton. I've dialed it back a little bit just because life. And she's made some comments of like, I don't like going to the gym. Like, it's kind of a very intimidating spot. So we have like, actually behind you, there's like weights and stuff, and we have a treadmill. And so we've tried to start to build a home gym, right? So that's not a roadblock for her, right?
Yeah.
Any tips for someone as they seek to potentially go to a public gym?
There's a couple things. Like you need to, it helps to give yourself a base. Like if you watch workout videos, that helped me. So I knew just enough to know a little bit, but I didn't know everything. But I think the biggest thing is you have to be willing to be bad at something new. You have to,
in front of a whole bunch of people.
Yes. Like I did a post recently that embarrassment is the cost of entry. You have to go through that if you want to become like a graceful master at it. You have to be bad at it. You have to go through the messy middle, because you think about it, if you start piano lessons, you're not going to sit down and play Mozart flawlessly. Like you're going to stumble, you're going to make mistakes. It's going to be ugly, but you're going to get better. And so you have to be willing to make that sacrifice, maybe be embarrassed, maybe feel insecure, knowing that it's going to get better. You're going to improve, and you're going to, perfect your form and your technique and be able to play Mozart,
Sure.
Yeah. What is it? The cringe is the barrier to success.
It
right?
really
No.
is. Like you have to be willing to pay that price in order to improve and get better.
It's so funny to me as a non-gym going person. I say, and I understand that I'm saying this as a person who doesn't go to the gym, but it feels like everybody I talk to, it's like I feel like everyone's going to the gym, like trying to keep their head down to not feel like everyone has the same feelings about the gym, and everyone's all intimidated about the gym, and just nobody talks about it, but they all just kind of go in and keep their heads down and be like, oh, I hope nobody else is looking at me. Hey guys, everyone's just worried about themselves most of the time and just trying to like take care of themselves, and they're really not worried about you.
It is so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, people aren't looking at you the way you think, way that you think they are. In fact, I had a very personal experience. One of the first times I went to the gym, I was uncomfortable in my own body.
Mm-hmm.
I felt uncomfortable. I had a lot of weight to lose, and at the beginning of, before they redid the gym, they had all the cardio equipment up at the front with the Stairmasters right in the front. And on the Stairmasters,
Right
you're up
there.
high.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're up high. And I was at the front of the cardio section on the Stairmaster, and I remember thinking, I am so humiliated. Like, I don't want to be up here. I feel like I'm showcased in front of the whole gym. Everybody's looking at me. And for the entire time that I was on the Stairmaster, I had to talk myself through it the whole time. Like, nobody's looking at you. You're working on it. You're working on it, Amy.
Yeah.
You're where you should be. It's fine. Like, you're going to get better. And I literally had that talk with myself the whole time I was on the Stairmaster because I was so embarrassed. And you know what? Nobody's going to know that. I know that.
Yeah.
True.
Nobody else remembers that or cares.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody was watching me.
I do find that there's more often than not, you go there and you go to the gym and people are like rooting for people, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, cool, that person's like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Or they like look out for each other, like, oh, hey, I noticed this, be careful with this or whatever. I think it's more rare that you find, you know, a massive bodybuilder who's like grunting, groaning, dropping weights and stuff, and they're the ones that's like judging everybody, like, get out of my way. I feel like that's not as common.
It's not as common. Really, honestly, like the girls that I stopped on the squat rack, they were very fit girls. And I could have been like, oh, they're mean girls, look at how fit they are. They were so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every other person that I asked along the way, like the big, huge bodybuilders, they are so nice.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel. People probably look at me and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm intimidated. I've been told I'm intimidating. And I'm like, I'm not. I promise I'm nice.
Very friendly.
I've been told I'm intimidating. But the thing is like, I genuinely want to help. If you see me, come up and talk to me and ask me, let me talk to you about my favorite thing ever. Yes, please.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's almost where it's like a lot of that community has gone through the same things, right? In terms of like being hesitant about going to the gym and have like learned to love it or learned to get over those same barriers. And they know like, hey, we know what you're going through. We know what it's like. And it's just like there's a community that exists in that space that seems really positive, which is, I think it's good. But
Yeah.
And that's what my classes have turned into with all of the women. They're very supportive because they were all like me.
Mhm.
They were all just beginning scared women, and then they kind of grew together and they realized like that's where I started and I want to help other people who are nervous and scared. And that's the community of women that I train, and it's amazing.
Talk to us about, I think, everything that we've talked about so far, right? We've talked about a little bit of your history, getting here, like looking at things you have to overcome if going to the gym, and then kind of building your business here. Talk to us about the process that you go through in identifying a plan, like a fitness plan for someone, or a schedule, or like what that looks like. Like, is
when I'm building it for other people or for
Yes,
me, or
no.
just like in general?
while running your business. So if someone is watching this says, okay, I got the courage to go to the gym and I'm doing my own research, I'm getting educated. Like, now I need help trying to identify how to create a plan for other people. Like, what are things that they need to be aware of, and kind of like what should they be thinking of in order to generate some sort of personalized plan or schedule or workout routine?
That's a really loaded question because like it's so individualized.
Okay.
And so when I'm helping people, like I said, what my husband and I have been through with, our health. I've had 6 kids, his health issues. The playing field is not even with anybody. Like, we all are going through different things. And so while the same principles may apply,
Sure.
it can be very individualized. And so it's about finding what works for that person. Like, what do they enjoy? What do they hate? What kind of foods do they like? You have to really think about that person as an individual and cater it to them and their lifestyle, instead of saying this is the only right way.
Sure.
And I think that's such a big thing is and that was one thing I had to learn and come across, is I feel like I learned that backwards, how I said I trained people first and then, you
Yeah.
know, whereas other people can get the certification. I think that you realize really quickly that there are lots of right ways to do things.
Sure.
And it becomes very apparent, like when I have my clients squatting and online versus me squatting online, they look very different. And sometimes that opens up criticism from gym bros, like, hey, you're doing it wrong. It's
Right.
like, no, they're doing it right for their body. It might be wrong to you and to your body, and it might look different, but everybody, there's lots of right ways to do things. And so I think that was one of the biggest things I learned, and that I would tell other people, is that there's lots of right ways.
Because you do see where it's like, when you squat, make sure your knees don't go past your toes or whatever. And it's like, depending on what you do, like,
Or like the squat plays or deadlifts. Oh my gosh, people are like, oh, you have to deadlift. It's like there's lots of right ways to do stuff, and you don't understand that person's body mechanics, their hip mobility, their femur length. There's so many things involved.
Would you say it's a good recommendation for someone to understand, like, the anatomy and how it all works and functions and everything before getting into this space?
Yeah. That definitely is, because if you don't have that open mind with the anatomy being different for everybody, it can make you think that people are doing it wrong.
Gotcha.
Like I said, whereas like, no, they're not doing it. It just looks different for their body.
Sure.
And some people need different types of exercises and things. And not everybody likes to squat. Not everybody likes to deadlift. And there's lots of right ways to go about it. You don't have to do those things.
So finding alternatives and stuff too.
Yeah. I'm a little curious on the business side, right? So, as we talk about with our podcast oftentimes we try to take the angle of getting started and somebody wanting to do this sort of thing. So what was kind of like the inflection point for you to like scale your business, right? Because like going from like talking to you and talking to a client and talking to one person versus like having something that kind of caters to a larger group of people, or when you think about it being a business, right, you have to find mechanisms of being able to monetize or to grow. Like what was that? Was there an inflection point for you to being like, oh, I'm still
figuring that out.
Okay, I can no longer like one-on-one in some of these scenarios, or kind of like help me understand, like for you, is it like a combination of both of those things, or how is it that you work with your business?
Just like my fitness or just like my fitness journey,
Mm-hmm.
it was a lot of like learning and being bad at something new, and also doing something scary. Like I remember my whole fitness business grew like little by little, brick by brick. Like starting my Instagram page was terrifying.
Yeah.
Just like using a barbell and asking those girls was terrifying. And so it's about putting yourself out there and doing the scary things. So little by little, I didn't know how to teach classes, but I dove right in and was like, okay, I'll learn how to do it. And I was bad at that too. So the same principle applies that you're doing through fitness and doing the scary, uncomfortable things with business. And the same thing, like I was like, well, I'll start a website. Okay, well, maybe I'll try to get clients and coach clients. And I did that for a while too. So, and it was all very scary things that I'd never done before, but I learned along the way, and I was communicative to people. And I think it's being honest with them and saying, hey, look, I don't know everything, but I still want to help you. And I'll learn with you if I don't know, instead of being like, I know everything and this is the right way and this is how you do it. And so it's like just being upfront and open and genuinely wanting to help those people can go a long way.
It is cool. Like people can tell, right? People can really tell if like you're there just to take their money and, push them to the side, or like you genuinely care about them in the moment that you're talking to them in conversation and just,
And instead of making it about me and my success, it's all about them. Like I've never really, while it's been cool to watch my Instagram account grow and watch things grow, that's really never been my driving factor ever.
Mm-hmm.
It's how can I help people? Like watching the women in my classes become confident and get stronger and being proud of themselves. Like that is what is so rewarding for me. And I think that if you want to get into being a personal trainer, doing those things, as long as you make it about your clients and about them, you will be successful, because people can sense that and they can feel that from you, and they'll be drawn to you that way.
We had a guest on like a month. It's been a while
in
ago.
the past,
and she runs her own cheer gym studio. And in doing so, she brought up like not just focusing on cheer, but focusing on teaching those girls how to be a well-rounded person in their community. And I feel like that's kind of what you're getting at too, right? Where it's like, it's not just about fitness. It's not just about looking good or being healthy. It's like everything else around that impacts you, like being a good mother, being a good father, being, a good wife and all this other stuff. I feel like are things that all get lifted when someone has this focus of bettering themselves. Like the tide raises all boats, right?
It really does. And I've noticed that in both mine and my husband's journey is that while yes, we've gotten in good shape, it has actually changed our entire lives. It's changed how we parent our kids. It's changed our discipline. It's given us exponential patience, because we talked about at the beginning, everybody wants the 90-day fix and
Right.
the short thing. That now I'm looking at things in years, like my business and everything. It's the patience. It really elevates absolutely everything in your life. The discipline and the grit and the determination and the consistency that you develop through fitness and changing your body, it translates to the rest of your life, and it's amazing.
I'm curious if you could go back in time, right? You turn back to Amy, maybe not first time in the gym, Amy, but putting on like the business glasses of saying, hey, here's where I am today. Here's my first version of when the first time somebody started asking you about how you do this before you started your first Instagram. And you could go back to her and you could tell her, hey, I'm going to give you some advice. What would you tell yourself?
I feel like I had to go through it the way that I did in order to learn what I have. So I don't know if I would change anything or even give myself any advice, because I think that the path that I took and the way, and even though it wasn't a traditional way, I think it was necessary for my own growth and everything. So I'd say keep going.
Lean
Don't
in.
give up.
Lean in a
Don't
little
give up.
bit. Yeah.
Do the scary things. Just keep going. And even now, like, I've still got big decisions ahead of me, and I have to keep reminding myself, like, that's where you've gotten today, is by doing the scary things and doing all of the things that you were terrified of doing. And so when more decisions are presented with high risk, it's like high risk is how you got here.
So you just tell yourself, you're going to earn it. You just got to do the work.
100%. It's going to be a long time.
You got to do the work.
A long time.
But you're going to earn it.
Get
That's right.
ready. We're doing this.
Yep.
Knowing a little bit of your background, you competed as well.
I did,
right?
yes.
So do you feel like that that had a play or influence of bringing to you where you are now with Abs by Amy, your fitness journey and everything?
100%. That was a huge learning experience for me. And a lot of people, so I'm very open with talking about shows. I feel like they are very extreme, and the cost is very, very high when you choose to do those, because it wrecked my hormones and took a toll on both my mental health, my relationship with food, and my body. And so the cost was very high. But with that being said, it taught me so much about to resonate with other women who do struggle with eating disorders and food disorders and bad relationships with food. I learned how to go through that and get out of it. And the body dysmorphia, learned to go through that and get out of it. And it also taught me a lot about macros and what they do to your body. It was a huge learning experience, but it's not something I would ever want to do again with the cost being so high.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same breath, people will say, hey, do you regret doing it because the cost was so high? It wrecked your hormones. You had to be on medication for the rest of your life because of what it did to you. If I didn't do what I do now, if I wasn't a fitness trainer, if I wasn't helping other people with my own personal experiences, if I wasn't in this position and I was just a regular mom of 6, yes, I would regret it. The cost is too high, and it would be damaging to my life. But that was a price that I had to pay in order to be where I'm at now. And so because of that, I don't regret it. It was the refiner's fire. It was a learning experience necessary for me to help other people.
For the audience listening or watching this, like when we talk competing, we're talking like getting up on the stage and,
The bikini competitions.
Yeah, the bikini
competitions.
competitions. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like you think of that and it's like, that's not like, like in the gym competitions and stuff. But yeah,
this is like the physique where you get very, very, very lean. And that was you diet yourself. It's controlled starvation.
Yeah. You're saying you wouldn't regret it. Awesome. Great. You're very open about it. Like did that came, I'm trying to think of chronological order. Like
2 years after.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had been doing I had gotten to, like I said, the first year, and then I started getting questions, and then that was another question that I would got, like, oh, do you compete? Do you compete? And I was like,
Okay.
Oh, while you were exercising,
Yep.
while you were just going to the gym, people were asking.
Yep, that
okay.
was one of the questions I got, and I was like, what is that? I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I had no idea, and honestly, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't learn very much about it. True Amy style, just drove right in, was like, okay, I'll do it.
Sure.
And then I learned about it afterwards. And so I'm like, you know what? It's probably a good thing I didn't know all about it in the first place, because I probably would not have done it. And that was something that I needed to do to get me where I'm at now.
Did you have like a mentor or
I did,
someone
yes,
who
yeah,
brought you in? Like they
yep.
kind of like said, like, that seems like the kind of thing where it's not, you can just like, oh, go online and find out and then just like sign up.
Yeah, no, I got to know a lot of the gym regulars. And so I had a couple of good friends who were like, you would do awesome. You should do a show. And I'm very, very grateful for them. Very good friends. And they're the ones that encouraged me to do it. And so they signed me up with the coach that they were with at that time.
Okay.
So then I was with him. It was like a 4-month prep, but it's a whole, oh my goodness, that's a whole story, because my show got canceled a week out because of COVID. So I was supposed to step on the stage in March 2020, and then it got canceled. And so then I kind of rebounded and gained some weight, because there's a whole process. And then I ended up going back on stage in August, still never as lean as I was back in March, but I did it, and it was a learning experience. And I think the rebound helped me learn what the post show is all about, because that's a big deal for people who don't understand. Like, you get your body so lean that your body's not meant to stay there, and you have to put on fat and weight afterwards. And a lot of people go through binging and like, that's where the poor relationship with food came from.
Interesting. If someone wanting to get into the space, would you recommend them look into competing, or like?
When people, I do get asked a lot, like people say, oh, hey, I want to do a show. I usually tell them to ask the hard questions, the questions that I probably should have asked about, what it does to your mental health, what it does to your body dysmorphia, and the relationship with food. And because there is not a single competitor I know that does not struggle with that. And so that's usually what I tell people is like, it's a really cool accomplishment. If you want to do that, it is an amazing accomplishment. It is very hard. You'll be very proud of yourself, but there is a very high cost that you need to be aware of.
Not to get too dark or anything here. What's kind of the dark side, or the realities or challenges of kind of where you are right now, where it's like you've been doing this, you've competed, awesome, great, you have this, you're on your fitness journey, you have Abs by Amy, you're helping people. Like, what's some things that people just don't realize or understand the impacts of the things that you do, just either to your family or just in general?
It is hard finding a balance between family and work, and that's something I still work on to this day. And sometimes I bite off more than I can chew, and then I have to back it off. I wouldn't really say that's a dark side, though. I think the darkest side that I see would be social media, by far. Putting yourself out there is scary, and people are cruel and vicious, and you have to have thick skin in order to deal with it. And so that's taught me a lot about, human interaction and interacting with people. And when people say these cruel, cutting things to you, or just, giving their advice and saying, oh, you're doing this wrong, you don't know what you're doing, just stuff like that, you have to be willing to put yourself in that person's position and be like, you know what, hurt people.
Yeah.
And, people that, maybe maybe they don't understand, or maybe they're struggling with themselves, or just simply ignore it and just be like, I don't know that person. It doesn't matter what they say. If it's not somebody that I would go to for advice, why would I take criticism from them?
Yeah.
And so that is definitely the darkest part, is the social media is cruel. It can also be very beautiful and wonderful too. But I always tell my husband, like, if I'm going to let the cruel comments bother me, I can't let the nice ones, like, I can't feed off of those.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you can't go on there for validation, and then because then people will say mean things to you, and then it destroys you, so it's like, you kind of have to just put everything, take it with a grain of salt. So that's definitely something. And then also the time. People have no clue how much time it takes to create content and put stuff out there, and then they'll give you crap for, it's like, this isn't what the content I wanted to see. It's like, you have no idea how much work this is,
That's true.
So it's a lot more work than you think it is. I definitely work as much as my husband, 40 hours a week doing
As far as
doing what I
content
do.
creation, yeah.
Content creation, all of it, just the whole 9 yards. My app, putting together workouts for my classes, helping other people, answering questions. It's very, very time consuming. So I think that would be the biggest thing that people, when I help them start their Instagram page, they're like, I had no idea how much work this was, and I had no idea how rude people could be.
Right.
So those are the two biggest things.
Oh, sad.
I know.
I mean,
Yeah,
it is sad. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, be nicer to people.
I know. That's why I was like, be a kind person, like spread kindness. And that's what I try to get my page to do. And when I do giveaways, I'm always like, hey, in order to enter the giveaway, you have to give a compliment to somebody. So make that Instagram a better place instead of being so mean and dark. Like, let's lighten it up.
If someone wants to become a trainer and help people out, how do you recommend someone go about getting space to help people? Like, do they go to like Vasa or Lifetime and try to sign up as a trainer and utilize the studio there? Or is it like they need to find some open warehouse and start their own gym? Like
warehouse.
how do you recommend
a shed?
Yeah.
Oh, that depends on how much work they want to put into it. Because I've grown my place, my business, mostly from my Instagram account and putting myself out there and letting people know. And so that's kind of how I've grown. And I have friends who are trainers and they work for Vasa or they work for other companies, and that's great. And they're successful and they're certified trainers and they do great. But if you want to do your own thing, it's going to be more work because you have to do social media. You have to do all of the things beyond it too. And you kind of have to accept that is a part of it if you want to grow yourself. So there's lots of right ways to do things, it just depends on what you want and what your goal is. Like, do you want to work for Vasa? Go for it. Do you want to build your own thing? It's going to be more work and you have to put more effort into social media and marketing and, that kind of stuff.
Like, I guess more so like looking forward to the future as far as like, growing your business for you is like, what do you see as kind of being the next big things?
Oh, I'm going through that right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually going through that right now. I'm starting to get to the point, speaking of doing scary things. So I don't make a ton of money. I'm not like a super wealthy person.
Sure.
I'm just your average Joe doing our own gym and their own places to facilitate, I can film my content there.
Yeah.
I can personal train and coach people there. I can a lot of things. So that's the next big scary thing. And all of the things that has led me up to this point have all been scary. And so this is just it never stops. The scariness never stops.
Oh man, that's
really
a good
cool
thing
though.
When you think about the business growth, right? It's like there's always, when it comes to business growth, there's always another hurdle, right?
100%.
And you can decide which hurdles you want to, which ones you want to jump over, and which ones you want to stay. And in many cases, you can find success to just be like, this is where I'm comfortable. This is as far as I want to go.
And that's the thing is growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my comfort zone right now, and if I want growth, I have to get out of that. And honestly, I had a realization about a month ago where I thought, if I died tomorrow, my business would die with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want that. And so that's why I'm like, okay, how do I get out of this? How do I, make it grow outside of me? And you get to the point where you're like, I need my people. I need a team of people. I need help. I need a crew. And so I have a wonderful community of women, and they're all very supportive. They're like, yes, let's do this.
That's cool.
So yeah.
That's really
But
cool.
it's scary. It's very scary. It's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone.
Right. It's just the next hurdle that you got to try to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I think ultimately that leads to people's success, right? I feel like the older I get, we all don't know what we're doing.
Oh,
I don't think so.
Yeah, we just
Nobody does.
I think most of us are just guessing.
Yeah, we just guess on what we're doing. Even like the professionals, right? Sure, you look at like doctors and whatever else, they're trained on certain procedures, but like even in the moment, they don't know what they're doing. They're just relying on like, okay, I've been taught this thing, so I do X, Y, Z.
We're all human.
Yeah.
It's like you gather as much information as you possibly can, and then you make a decision based off of that information. And that's what everybody's doing.
Yep.
Surprise, children. Us adults, we don't know what's happening.
We don't know what's going on.
It's like we're growing up with you. We're learning with you.
Yeah, the economy, who knows? What is that?
And you had asked me like what one of my biggest things was, and doing my app. Like that was a huge thing that I did. Took so much work, and that was.
You mean you ever built an app before?
Oh, jeez. it only was that easy.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah,
easy, right?
yeah,
You
right.
just build an app.
Yeah, just casually throw that together. So.
Well, so tell us a little bit about your app and kind of a little bit of a plug here for kind of what you're doing and the.
So it's funny. So I've had a handful of followers that have been with me for a long time, and one of them in particular, her name is Echo. She is like, "Hey,
That's a
when
cool
do you
name.
I
Echo.
know, right?
Mm.
Yeah, she's followed me since I had like 7,000 followers, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, you kind of get to know people. Anyway, she's like, "When are you going to do an app?" Because she bought my PDF programs back when I did
yeah.
just like those, and
When
she's
you were
like, "You're gonna
emailing
do
them or whatever
Oh,
it is.
yeah, like
a newsletter.
archaic
yeah.
stuff." Yeah,
You send them in the mail. You were like putting stamps on. No, not that archaic.
What are
Yeah.
stamps?
And
No.
delivered.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, so she's like, "Why don't you do an app?" And so I started to look into it, and then I got really scared, and I was like, "I don't want to do that. It's very scary." And then things kept on happening, and then I had another woman reach out to me and was like, I think you need to do this. I think you need to do an app. And her name's Andrea, Deliciously Fit and Healthy. I'd never met her in real life, but she messaged me one day and was like, "Hey, I've been thinking about you. I really think you need to do an app." And I'm like, "Where did that come from?"
Wow.
So there's been a lot of things like that have happened along the way in my journey. And when you really look at it, it's like, I'm really grateful for, the community and the support. But anyway, so she helped me. I looked into it, finally made the dive and did it. And that was another huge learning curve. And I had it for probably, I think a year and a half. And then I decided to do like business coaching to learn more, because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I still don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And they helped me, and I kind of redesigned everything, and so I've pretty much poured my heart and soul into the app and tried to make it as valuable as possible. Programs for pregnancy, beginners, advanced, people who can go to the gym, go home, nutrition help, because that's huge, like education on nutrition and all of the things that I've learned with the eating and trying not to be overwhelmed, because I feel like a lot of people, when they're first starting, it's like they bite off more they can chew. They try to do it all and they get overwhelmed, and then they quit. And it's like, no, just take it a little bit at a time, just a little piece at a time. My journey was not all at once.
Sure.
I did little things at a time and just learned along the way. So that's what I've tried to put in my app, is just give it to people in doses and make it manageable so it can be sustainable, and then they will be successful.
Is your app live right now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It is. Yeah. And it's like, if you do the annual subscription, it's like $8 a month. So it's
sweet.
really inexpensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
What's the app called for people who are listening?
So I'm on the Playbook platform.
Okay.
But I have my own section within the Playbook platform, so you can the links on my Instagram page, or it's Abs by Amy Fitness app. If they want to check it out, but it's got all of the information on there, and kind of check it out. You can try it for free.
Yeah, we'll put links to
Sweet.
YouTube.
Yeah,
too
we'll
as
definitely
well.
put it.
Chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my baby. I poured my heart and soul into it, genuinely wanting to help other people.
Yeah.
Your seventh baby, right?
I
Your
know,
seventh
right?
baby.
Yes. Well, eighth. Did you
Oh, I
count my
guess-
husband?
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you
I
count my
guess
husband?
true,
Yeah.
baby.
He's a child too.
Yeah.
100%. Are there other questions we haven't asked that you feel like this is a good time to talk through and kind of address? I know I sent a
Yeah.
massive amount of
you
questions.
You did. I think one of the biggest things is people just don't know where to start and don't know how to start.
Mm-hmm.
And I touched on that briefly about, if you're getting started with your fitness business or just anything in general, it's just start small and be patient and stay in your own lane. Because a lot of the times, like, you'll look at other people and you're comparing your first chapter to their 20th chapter, and so it's like, just stop looking at other people, stay in your own lane, and just start small. And you're not going to see results. You're not going to see that initial return on investment right away. It is very, very slow. But just know that you're establishing your root system, you're establishing habits and behaviors that will carry you into success. And so I think that just accepting that and knowing that it's going to be slow, just not comparing to other people is very huge, and just taking it a little bit at a time.
We appreciate your time. Do you have any plugs or anything you want to add?
Anything
here?
else you want to add in and plug?
There's my app. We talked about my app, and then
Yeah.
I also train people, because that is a much different experience versus just watching a video and I write all those descriptions to have let me walk you through your squats and let me find what works. We talked about there's lots of right ways to do things.
Yeah.
And so finding your squat stance that works for you, and things that, I've had women come to me and say, I have back pain, I can't do this, I can't do that. And then I work with them and they're like, oh, I actually can now. And so having that in-person personal training experience is can be very huge. So I teach classes twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays in Lehigh at a gym. We can put the address on there, and it's $15 a class, or you can do Punch Pass for a little bit more of a discount. But
Cool.
And then your socials.
Abs by Amy on all of them: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. I don't I don't do YouTube and TikTok as much as I should. I'm mostly on Instagram.
Mostly on Instagram.
Mostly on Instagram.
Yeah, not on the Twitter. Oh no, wait, X.
I don't know.
X.
No, I don't.
It's still
It's a
Twitter
silly-
in our heads. We're,
It's a silly
Yeah.
place. I
It
don't
forever
know.
will be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Amy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
it.
me.